I'm Dennis James. This is my first time here in Denmark. No, I've been here a few times, and it's good to see that Stella brought back the Lola Cup, and I'm really, really proud to be a part of this 2012 Lola Cup with guys like Flex, Larissa, and Phil, of course. So it's good to come back to Denmark and see that. Because I told Phil and I told everybody that the Danish crowd is the most craziest crowd I've ever been to. And I'm pretty sure that you guys want to make it down tonight, okay? All right. First things foremost, guys, thank you so much for all support this year. Introduce myself, Flex Lewis. Just want to thank, again, each and every one of you coming out to see us four. Don't hold back any questions. This is what we're here for. And again, thank you so much for Stella to bring me out. A couple of years ago, as you know, we tried to come out to them. But I give you my word, if Stella brought back the Lola Cup, I'll be first in line to come here. And true to my word and true to Stella's word, he brought me out here to Denmark to see you guys. So again, thanks for everyone coming out, and I look forward to meeting each and every one of you in the foyer, in the crowd, whatever. Thank you. Well, thank you. As you know, I'm Phil Heath, current Mr. Olympic champion. It's my first time here in Denmark, and Dennis, you were right. This crowd is pretty intense, and we haven't even taken our clothes off yet, so this is pretty definitely want to say thank you to all the people that have shown up today. I just got here and there was a huge line outside, and this is what bodybuilding is about. For guys like us, we travel around the world, and we hope to be able to meet each and every one of you guys to provide some inspiration, some motivation, and things like that. And that's what this seminar is here about. So this is all about you guys. Like Flex said, ask us pretty much anything, I'm sure. And yeah. But like I said, this is about you guys right now, and I do hope that we can hit some good stage shots for you later on today, and get on with the show. But first and foremost, I just want to say thank you all again. Thank you, Stalin. Thank you, Dan. Everybody that was involved with the Lola Cup. Like I said, this is the first time I've been here, and hopefully it won't be my last. So on with the seminar. Thank you very much.
Yes. Så, drenge og piger, så er der lige med mulighed for at stille de her mennesker nogle spørgsmål. Hvis der er noget, man godt vil spørge om, så er det nu. Så er det bare op med nappen. Stilleren står herovre i den side, og jeg står her, så er det op med nappen. Don't be shy. Questions?
Yeah, I got a question. Maybe people can hear me. Phil Heath, I met you a couple of years ago, some years ago in Florence. There's a fitness festival there. And I must say a lot of stuff is, your physique has changed a lot since that time. And I was just wondering what changes you've made in your training regimens since that's the fact that you now become the Mr. O.
I do think that since Florence, some things have changed, obviously, but I think the main thing was time. Little people realize that I didn't grow up being a bodybuilder. I grew up playing basketball of all sports, and then later on, after playing in college, I started bodybuilding. So I never really lifted until I would say like 22, 23 years old. With that said, I turned pro very fast, so then everyone was seeing me at the beginning of my career. Normally, you see a guy that turns pro, they've already been training a lot, and they're almost at their pinnacle of their career where they're not going to make too many more improvements. Whereas for me, I came into the industry a lot smaller, had some weak points in here and there, and really it was just time and effort. And that's why, it's been really cool for me to even see the transformation each and every year, but really there was no secret other than just making it more serious every year, making sure that even while I'm traveling around the world, like in Florence, for instance, it was very pertinent that myself, along with Melvin and other guys, got with the promoter and made sure that we ate, 7 times a day, made sure that we trained, and that's why we had the gym set, But that's the biggest thing for me is making sure that I treat bodybuilding as a business, not just as a hobby anymore. I love bodybuilding as my hobby, but I have to be very serious. So even while I'm in Denmark, I have to make sure I train, I make sure I eat. But I would say the biggest thing was just understanding that a lot of people said that I had a lot of potential early on. And in order for me to succeed at that, I had to be willing to make less mistakes with my training and my eating habits. Because everyone else had maybe 10 plus years ahead of me. So really that's all it was. I mean, I know everybody in there wants to know a secret or this or that, but really it was just being consistent and making sure that I didn't make the other mistakes that other people were making.
Thank you. Just one last question. What was the feeling inside you when you were on stage in Vegas, taking the old title away from your good friend Jay Cutler?
I would say it was pretty amazing for the simple fact that I remember in 2010 I placed second at the Arnold Classic to Kai Green, and I wanted to show everybody that I could be first at Mr. Olympia that same year, and it didn't happen. I remember standing on that stage with Jay in 2010 and thinking, this is my moment, this is my moment. And I didn't, it was almost like I felt at that time it was 50-50, like, oh, well, if I get second, that's cool. Well, going into 2011, I thought, screw second place, like, I'm going to be first, So my mentality changed, and when I was standing on the stage on Saturday night at the 2011 Mr. Olympia, I kept telling myself, we're going to win this. And then even Jay knew it, and he felt like, well, this is your time, and how does it feel? And I just told him, like I'm telling everybody here, it was the best feeling probably I've ever felt. And I think that's what drives me even more to want to repeat as the Mr. Olympia champion, is to have that same feeling. Exhilaration, hearing the fans, not one fan at that show were booing, not one. And usually at the Olympia, there's people that say, well, I thought he should have won, or I thought he should have won. No one there said anything. So that was probably the coolest moment.
Thank you.
Ja, nogen der har nogle spørgsmål? Der er her. Er du først, Stella? Så sætter jeg mig klar herovre.
Hi, this question goes up to all of the athletes on stage. You always hear a lot of people, train high intensity, low intensity, and so on, and it works, all of it, mostly for most people. And I just want to turn that around and ask, would you guys give one advice each of what not to do ever in your own experience that didn't work at all regarding training?
I'm the young buck up here. Let me get a DJ.
Ladies first.
Thank you very much. So I came from the high intensity training since I started. So to be honest with you, I never had another type of training. So I think that's the most, for me, that's what always I did and what worked for me.
I'm the young buck. I missed, what was the question again? I'm sorry. No, seriously, I missed the question. What was different training styles. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I tried a multitude of different training styles. Coming from the UK, I had the opportunity to train with Dorian at a very young age. And when I went to the States, I trained with Dennis, I trained with Milos. At the moment, I've got a training style which is, I follow the Y3T principle, which pretty much each week it changes. It goes from low volume to on the third week high volume. So basically it's always constantly changing. I've been basically doing that for the last couple of years and injury free, and I managed to get over a lot of plateaus. So I'm a big advocate of training with intensity, bottom line, very fast, short and sharp. I don't like to be in the gym too long. I only train one single body part. every time I train. So with that said, with the training changing constantly, I feel like I'm getting that heavy training in 1 week. The second week is heavy with isolated exercises, and then the third week is pretty much giant sets, drop sets, a lot of high volume. So I hope that answers your question.
Did you guys understand that?
These guys, because I'm a young guy in the scene, these two bugging me all day long. So if any opportunity I'm going to get back to them, believe me, on stage, off stage, I'm going to get back to them, okay? Just leave that.
Don't worry about the girls think the action.
Regarding training, I'm going to be honest. I tried it all. I did it all. And I think if you have the least amount of, genetics, then, everything works. Because like I said, whatever I did, everything worked. So I couldn't really tell you, what didn't work, because I never had a problem growing. So, but if you ask, what is it that I wouldn't do anymore? I'll definitely would never try to train around injuries. Because a lot of people have injuries and they think they can train around it. And I think by doing something like that, you're going to hurt yourself more than you help it. So this is the only advice that I would give you. When you're hurt, give your body some rest, don't train. And other than that, you have to find out what works for you. You can't basically go by somebody else who says, high intensity works for me, low intensity works for him. You figure out what works best for you, and then like I said, if you have a little bit of genetics, you're going to have success no matter what. I would agree with what Dennis is saying. Early on in my career, I was reading every magazine article there was about training, and I pretty much tried it all. It definitely worked for me too, but I think the biggest thing was, in addition to what Dennis said about training around injuries, is making sure that the form is actually good and the range of movement. I think the biggest downfall with a lot of guys is that they get too caught up in the actual poundage that is being used and not focusing on the actual range of movement. So, I always looked at it as, well, if I have to go a little lighter in weight, that's okay, because I'm not trying to be a strongman, a powerlifter. I'm trying to sculpt the body and make the body, round and separated, like what you see like on contest day for me. And I would say the biggest thing is just to check my ego at the door, making sure that, I'm not concerned about what other people are saying or what other people are doing, making sure that I'm in tune with myself. And then also, if there's an exercise that I don't feel that is working for me, I completely quit that exercise and move on to something else. And I'm not worried about, like for instance, if I'm doing a flat bench press and I just don't feel right, I will stop, take a breath, try it again. If it doesn't work, then I switch to another exercise, because maybe I am hurt, or maybe, I'm just not as motivated for that particular workout at that time. But I've tried, like I said, I wouldn't say that one style is better than another, but I would say that it's definitely your intensity and that your intelligence with who you are and making sure that you're not overexerting yourself using bad form.
All right. Just about here.
To Dennis James, you've since you retired back in, I don't remember when it was, but
September 2010.
Yeah, you stayed obviously pretty big, and I've read a lot of times online that people who have seen you lately said that you could compete anytime, and now I've seen it for myself. So, with the rumors that the Masters Olympia maybe would be back, do you even consider competing anymore, or do you just stay in good shape for your own health and well-being?
What did you hear about Masters Olympia? What do you know that we don't know?
Well, most of them don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But, there was the Masters competition.
There was in December.
Yes, last year. Yes. So, if a competition like that would arise again, would you consider it?
You know what? I'm going to be perfectly honest. The thing is,
When I retired at the Olympia, I told myself this is it, because I told myself about 2 years before that, no, I didn't tell myself, I promised my wife that I would retire. So in 2 years, I broke my promise, so I was like, you know what, let me make it 10 Olympias and then I quit. Okay, so she said, all right, that's the last one. If you don't quit after that, I'm gone. She told me that, seriously. So of course I quit. And then there was the Masters last year, but I said to myself, listen, I just retired, I cannot come back the following year, not even, just a little over a year. What kind of retirement is that? So of course, it was I never thought about it, not even once. Masters Olympia sound better, you know what I mean? Because it's a show that, it sounds like it's the biggest show for Masters. But the thing is this, I know I have another one in me to be competitive. But I'm not sure if my wife would play that shit with me. I'm serious. I mean, I thought about it, and I talked to a few people, because I heard it too, through the grapevine. It's not 100%, but I was like, you know what? That would be kind of cool, But like I said, man, I gotta talk this out with myself. I gotta get this. I need to find somebody that can talk to my wife, so I can, maybe, because I can get that. Somebody has a good lawyer, or somebody has a good way of, getting people to kind of flip over, and then I would maybe consider it.
But she's letting you stay big.
This is me. I was always big. I will never be small. You will never see me small. I mean, small for me is still big for average people. But I didn't even need to come across like that. No, what I'm saying is, even when I'm small, I'm still bigger than normal. So, and this is why, I don't think that it will be a day where I tried it one time. I tried it with all the possible cardio and no training and everything, but for me to get below 250 is almost impossible. Because everybody in my family is big. My mom was 240. So we don't have anything less than 240 in our family.
Du har ikke opstillet? Det er godt.
This question for everyone. I know that Phil works with Hani and Rex works with Neil. How instrumental is having a coach or a trainer in your success?
I've been with Neil since I was 19 years old, and he's been a staple in my career, not just on stage, but off the stage also. He's been a big mentor in my life, and I pretty much wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't him. Again, I've had many chances to go work with other people, but I think a lot of people jump ship easy once the opportunities are there, thinking they're going to bet their career or whatever. But I've got everything underneath him. I was undefeated as an amateur, turned pro at 23, and he believed in me. Came around the country out of his own pocket, went to the States out of his own pocket. So again, for me, I showed my loyalties with him, and he believed in me since day one. And when the 202 Olympia came about, he was telling me I could win that long before anybody had me on the radar. So having him as a coach behind me most definitely has pushed me as a better bodybuilder, but also as a better person on and off stage.
I actually met Hani Rambo right after I turned pro. It was at the IFBB North American contest. He was actually working with a couple other guys, and I didn't really know him, other than what I read about him in the magazines, and we shortly became friends right away. And he wanted me to be his client, and it wasn't really until I'd say the Olympia that year Ronnie Coleman won in 05, and I was actually Miss USA, and I got to hang out with Ronnie Coleman, so I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. I got to see Ronnie Coleman after the show, and I'm at a nightclub with Coleman, and Hani Rembrandt says, hey, you should work with me. I'm like, no, let's just go party, and then, we'll talk about this another time. But then Ronnie actually said, no, I think that it would be smart to work with Ronnie because he knows what he's doing. And I said, well, why don't you work with him? He said, well, I work with Chad, and Ronnie and I are friends, and I don't want it to be a conflict, with our friendship. So, I decided to give him a shot, and, I won my first 2 pro shows. Now, mind you, I never had a prep coach as manager. I did everything on my own, so I didn't really feel like I needed anybody. But when it was really Ronnie Coleman who told me, hey, you need someone to try to give you a better perspective on your training, your diet, and that was definitely something that he was very intelligent about. All of his clients at the time were very well conditioned, and I thought, well, if he can make me a little bit tighter, a little bit more shredded, then I'll give him a shot, and it worked. And even when I wasn't winning, the main goal was to win the war, which was becoming Mr. Olympia. And I remember him telling me that at the very beginning, that there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, just like in life. And it's going to be the measurement of my success will be based upon what I do when I get knocked down and then get my belt back up. And he was always a good motivator. And to be honest, he's a good person because he was able to train not only myself, but train Jay Cutler at the same time and help resurrect Jay Cutler's career in 2009 when he smashed us all on that stage. And then, so I'm going to continue to work with him, of course, and hopefully, win another title in September.
Der er spørgsmål dernede, Stella. Ja, der er langt. Sætter jeg mig ned her og mens.
This question is for Phil. In my honest opinion, your biggest improvement down here, all the way at the back here. Your biggest improvement from the Olympia 2010 to 2011 was your back. What did you do to improve it that much? Is there anything specific that you did?
I would say, every prep I take progress pics and I actually write down a blueprint of what I want to succeed at. So it was in 2007, after the Arnold Classic, I thought that I needed a bigger back then because I was getting beat by guys from behind. So in 2008, I made a big jump. Well, that included a lot of rowing movements. So like a lot of seated rows, a lot of dumbbell rows, a lot of T-bar rows, every row, everything. Really underhand barbell rows helped me out a lot in 2007 to 2008. So when I was getting ready for this particular contest, I thought, let's just focus on what we did in previous years because I kind of went away from it. And good thing I did is that I improved, but really it was just, I would say, the consistency of training heavier and more often. So I was doing back sometimes twice a week during my contest prep because I felt that I could keep it fuller longer. And because of me eating so much, I wasn't really overtraining. So I just really thought that, I had a bigger purpose, obviously. I was second in the world at the time, trying to become first, and I knew that if I could make it rounder than Jay and guys like Kai and Dennis Wolf and these guys, then I don't think that they could stop me. So I just really went in there like, well, Hani Rambach basically told me you have to train pissed off. You have to train upset. So that's what I did. But you guys see me, I'm usually smiling all the time, so it's kind of hard for me to get mad. But, for that entire prep, it was just, I was very, very angry, I guess, and wanted to win. I wanted it more than anything, just like now.
Ja, det var Klaus. Så er det her overstanden.
Yeah, it's a little bit about the nutrition. I'm trying to gain weight at the moment, and it goes for all of you. But I'm a little confused about carbs. How you should eat it? In the mouth, but like...
I'm not answering this question.
No. But it's like, when it's the day to eat the carbs, because a lot of guys say, like, don't eat carbs late at the day because it will just turn to fat. But I kind of disagree about that. But
what's your opinion?
I think you should eat the right amount of carbs every meal. Like,
I think you should eat carbs only on Saturdays and Sundays.
Really?
Because I see you struggling. I can feel your struggle. So just eat carbs on Saturdays and Sundays.
Really? Okay, you say so. You're the big guy.
I eat carbs only on Sundays.
Holy shit! Yeah.
Baby, shut up. Steven.
Okay, yeah, that was my question.
Okay, go back to your question. What is your problem with the carbs? Do you have any issues with carbs? Are you fat?
No.
Then
I want to gain weight. That's the
okay.
problem.
If you're not fat and you want to gain weight, don't let nobody tell you not to eat carbs. You gotta eat carbs.
Yeah,
okay?
But each meal, or can I eat it late at the day? But some say like, no, it would just.
If you take your shirt off and show me what you look like, I'll tell you how long you can eat. I'll tell you what time to stop. I gotta see what you look like. Yeah, I need to see what you look like so we can assess your physique.
Are you ready?
We'll take it from there.
I think you should go to the car after 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I think you should have carbs with meal 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6.
I'm a basketball player, so that's why I also have a lot. It's hard for me to gain because I do a lot of running. Yeah, and I'm a guard, so I need to run all the time.
Trust me. If you run, eat all the time. Don't worry. If you're hungry, eat.
Okay, thank you.
Don't worry about it.
So, you know, I played basketball and it was very tough. How often do you train though with weights? How often?
Like 5 times a week.
5 times a week, so like for like what, an hour, 2 hours?
Yeah, I try to keep like high intensity.
You might have to train a little heavier and things like that, you know, but how often are you eating? Like, what's your meal size for
It's.
That is small. So like.
No, I try to eat big, but it's also I go to school, but I try to make like meals for like every second and third hour, and I try to eat as much as I can, but I don't see any progress. So I guess I'm not eating enough.
Yeah, you might not be eating enough. Yeah, because like Dennis said, like, you know, you mentioned up to 6 meals, 7 meals. It sounds like to me that you may be getting maybe what, 3, 4?
No. I eat like 6, maybe 7.
Okay, then I would increase the portion size, and then like Dennis said, you know, have more carbs. You know, you gotta carb up, man. I mean, you know, you're gonna run it off. You know, you gotta, you know, make sure that you're training. And you look pretty young too, so I mean, you know,
yeah, I'm 19.
Oh well, gosh, you should have saw me at 19. I was small as hell playing basketball. So, I mean, it just takes time too. You know, I mean, you're not gonna be, you know, this size, you know, at 19. It's just not gonna happen. But the good thing is that if you stay consistent right now with your eating and stuff, you can definitely get there. You know, but you're doing the right thing. You just have to always consider the source too. You know, a guy that's telling you not to eat carbs, he probably was smaller than you. You know.
Yeah, but those are on the internet everywhere. So.
But those people don't have faces.
No.
So you're getting advice from people that, I mean, seriously, this is
I'm not trying to follow them. I'm not trying to follow them, but it's like everyone's saying it.
You're listening to them.
You should let Larissa tell him what he should do.
Okay.
Larissa, tell him what they need to do.
carbs at night. Everybody's different, you know. Everything's depends how your day are, and you're gonna add carbs. And always try to eat carbs with the best carbs, you know, with like the index low and the best carbs, and you don't need to worry about it. Especially if you have like do exercise all the time, and you know it's more dangerous for people who doesn't do exercise at all, you know, and want to eat carbs all the time, and then that's the.
Så jeg hører det. Ja, thank you a lot. Og husk bare, ja. Og så vil jeg lige sige, at bare fordi man skriver noget på internettet, behøver man ikke at være professor. Der er utroligt mange på nettet, der har mening om, hvad man skal æde, og hvordan man skal skide, og det er der nyt på det. Vi går hernede nogle spørgsmål. Hvad er det først?
Here's another question regarding the dieting and just generally eating. You need to eat a lot to grow. I've encountered sometimes you just get sick and tired of eating. You get 1 or 2 mouthfuls in and you feel full. And I expect that you guys run into that kind of problem once in a while like everybody else does. How do you cope with that? How do you get past that?
Well, if there's no appetite, then you just put in what you can, as long as you have a little bit of food. Even if it's really, I mean, if you usually eat 12 ounces of chicken, you know, as long as you get a couple of ounces in every 2 to 3 hours, your body won't go into a catabolic phase if you have a big meal or not. So you just got to feed them a little bit. You know, everybody runs. I most of the time, in my experience, all these years, in off season, I never had a problem eating. I had problems when as soon as I started dieting, the first 2 or 3 weeks, I had issues. I couldn't get my meals down until the calories start speeding up, and then you can't wait for your next meal. You know.
My issue is I have really bad appetite at the best of times, even since I was a small kid. So I choose a sport which is obviously based on the dinner table. Which has been a learning experience to say the least. So traveling as much as I did as a rookie, I had to learn to eat on the road. It was difficult. There was no manual up there that says, okay guys, you know, this is bodybuilding. You're going to Australia, Denmark. As soon as you land, you've got to get rid of all your food, whatever else. With no appetite, for me it was like, okay, whatever, I'll eat in an hour, eat in 2 hours. Before I know it, I've lost 2 or 3 meals. So I have to literally even now force feed myself. But now it's a lot easier with the goal in mind. I want that title, so if I'm not eating, I'm not going to win. So it's just like training. Some days you wake up, man, I don't want to go to the gym. Some people got that mindset. I never had that mindset. My problem is eating. So my battle, like I said, is eating. So I've got to get through the meals regardless. So if I got 7 meals to get down me, I will make sure I get all the meals in me, regardless. I want that title, I want that 212 title, so I've got to do whatever I've got to do it. Again, with like Danny said, as soon as I start dieting, my nutritionalist actually ups my meals. So on top of me having a bad appetite in the off season, the increase of food is quite significant. So as the diet goes on though, the amount of food that Neil gives me is ample. I'm never hungry in my diet, never hungry. Maybe up until 2 weeks before the show. And I do very little cardio going into last year's Olympia. Just keeping my training at high intensity and doing the amount of cardio I need. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I've always suffered with my appetite. I'm not having an appetite like Dennis. I hung out with this guy many times, puts me to shame. So, yeah, you got to eat, guys, and that's what I tell people to answer that guy's question over there. I know he doesn't sound like he's got suffers with an appetite. People say the basic question I can ask is how do I get big, and it's eating. You can train until the cows come home, but if you're not eating, you're not going to grow. So.
In my experience, what I try to do early on is, you know how when you first start bodybuilding, you read a magazine, you see a guy like that change, you see a guy like Ronnie Coleman or something like that, you see how they train, right? and you want to do that training workout. Well, just like how, a person that weighs, maybe 150 pounds can't bench press 500 pounds, you have to go slow, right? To get up to that point. And you may not get there. Well, for some reason, when people read the magazine and they see us eating large amounts of food, they think that they can automatically just say, I'm going to eat 5,000 calories today, when their body is just not used to it. So what you have to do is start smaller. And the word small in bodybuilding, we all hate. So that was something that I tried to realize early on, is that, okay, this guy may eat 10 ounces, but I'm going to start off maybe at 6 and do, 7 meals of 6 ounces of protein, and then eventually my metabolism, gets, fired up. Maybe I do a little bit of cardio in the off season, making sure that I'm staying hydrated, because that'll help your metabolism too, processing all the foods out, things like that. Not getting backed up, you know what I mean, like being able to go to the restroom. But, but you got to make sure that, you start small, and eventually your body will acclimate. Just like how your body acclimates to the weight training, your body has to acclimate to the supplements, your body has to acclimate to the amount of food you take in. And eventually, you'll start to realize that, okay, I started off at 2,500 calories, and then try that for a month, then the 3,000, then the 3,500, then the 4,000. Now you're off, because if you were to do 2,000 and then want to do 5,000 that next week, it's going to be very difficult to eat all the food. And you're going to become very bloated, very sick. And you're going to say, oh man, this is a chore. But if you do it in small increments, your body will adjust slowly. And then eventually, with the amount of cardio and things like that, your body's going to be revving hot. Like I'm sure I can speak for these guys and say that the minute you start eating clean and do a little bit of cardio, stay consistent, every time you ingest something, your body's on fire again. But in order to get there, you have to start small.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm looking through the people, I'm looking for the audience here, and I see a lot of girls and guys drooling over Larissa right here. And I can tell, I point you all out if you want me to. So this is a seminar. I want you guys to understand, there's always, and I've been experienced it since I did my first ever seminar. There's people that all have questions in their mind, but they just don't ask. I don't know why. Listen, get the questions out. She's sitting right here, and I know you have a question. So don't be afraid to ask, because she's really nice, and it's the same with us. So there might be some questions that sound stupid to some people, but listen, there's no such thing as stupid questions, okay? So let it out. Let it out.
I've got a question that actually
for who?
Yeah, it's for those of you that are answered, and especially for Larissa Reis, because it would be fun to hear one's perspective on this. Because we all know that health is a pretty big issue in bodybuilding. And how much does it fill up in your thoughts every day?
Okay, what was that again? I want you to what?
In your daily life, how much do you think about your health?
How much do you think about your health all day? How much time do you spend?
Well, yeah, I think 24 hours I think about health. Who doesn't want to be healthy, especially these days. You see a lot of people sick, Food is the biggest drug on the planet. So I think everybody think about to be healthier, to eat clean, organic food. I think it's 24 hours.
Like Larissa said, we all watch what we eat up here. And, for myself, I can probably speak about these guys. We do a lot of traveling on the road, fly in different countries. So we are exposed to a lot of different cultures, climates, whatever. I rarely get sick. I look after myself in and out, inside out. That means that, inside out, I got, look after my doctor. And then, as I then got bored, I make sure that I'm in this sport for longevity things. With everything else, I basically from internally to externally. I'm injury free and I want to remain that way. So again, I think longevity is a lot of things that some bodybuilders that you guys need to think about. A lot of people want to get to where we are fast. There's no shortcut. There's genetics involved, of course, but we've all put our work in, regardless, years of work. And for me to sit here as a blessing to be amongst three great athletes that have seen the world well before I was even thinking about being a pro. So that said, longevity is something I knew. I'm lucky to have Neil Hill next to me as my nutritionalist, has been advocating in me since I was, got into this sport. So he's, as soon as we do shows, I have rest. And we don't push. And I think that's the reason why I've got to where I am as fast as I have, injury free.
Yeah, I would agree with Larissa and Dennis. Being a bodybuilder, it's a lifestyle. My main goal is to feel good and look good. That's it. And like Flex said, inside and out. So for me, it's not just about the weightlifting. It's not just about the diet. It's definitely about, like what Flex said. Anytime you start a nutrition program or a training program, it always usually says consult physician. And usually no one ever does that. No one ever, because they feel that they're healthy. Well, sometimes people may have injuries and that they don't know about. So for me, it's always to get a full physical, to make sure that everything's working properly. Being in tune with your body. For me, not too long ago, I noticed that my strength was going down a little bit, like on presses. And I thought, gosh, it feels real weird. Well, I had a nerve injury in my hand. And I didn't even know it, but I knew it. So I ended up talking to my doctor, who actually is an acupuncturist, and he did different therapies and stuff. And for me, traveling around the world, like I said, I mean, it's not always good on our bodies, sitting in a little tight space like this, on a 10-hour flight, going up and down in elevation. But for me, it's just maintaining, a good wholeness with myself, making sure that, I am taking care of my joints and my ligaments, paying attention to, making sure that I'm doing a colon cleanse after a show, making sure that I'm drinking enough water, making sure that, I'm stretching. A lot of bodybuilders, we don't talk about those things. We just talk about lifting. We don't talk about stretching and things like that. I've done, I can admit, I've done yoga class. I've done, I've tried to work up a lot of reformer and different exercises because I still want to stay athletic. I still want to be healthy for the long run because when I retire from this sport, I want to be able to do other things. But, health and fitness all the way, 24/7, 365 days a year, for sure. But in order to do what we do, we have to not just pay attention to what's going on inside the gym, but we have to make sure that we are in tune with our bodies in every aspect of what we do. So everything that we do has a purpose. Everything. The amount of sleep, the amount of training, the type of supplements, the type of protein, carbs, everything has a purpose. And if it doesn't fulfill that purpose, then we don't do it.
Okay, this is to Dennis. What other business ventures are you in outside of bodybuilding? I don't know if it was your gym, but you trained in Thailand and I visited that gym. And they said it was your gym, but I didn't know what they mean. Do you have any other business ventures outside of bodybuilding?
Yes, I have a few. But it's not a gym. I used to own a gym in Thailand, and I left Thailand back in 2004. So, and I don't think it's smart to run a business in a country if you're not even there. So I was fortunate to find a buyer before I was planning on. Actually, the last couple of years I was there, I didn't own a gym anymore. But I was still represented because I built it. I had all the machines done. There was nothing available to buy, so we had to basically copy all the machines. And then the only stuff we got was the cutting machine. But like I said, I don't own the gym anymore. I have a business in Europe, that imports and exports nutritional supplements. You know what I mean? And this is, I've been doing this for quite some time now, I think like 6-7 years. And so you can't stand still, you know, because you have to understand that bodybuilding is a career, and a career will get to an end sooner or later. You know, there's many different factors that play a role. You can get injured. Phil is Mr. Olympia right now. He can go to the gym tomorrow and tear his quad. It's all possible. You don't want to talk about this. You know what I mean? But things happen, you know, and things happen, and that's why careers can be short. You know, and that's why you want to make sure that, you know, whatever you do, you want to think about your future. You know, if there's some possibilities, you know, to make some money on the side, or, you know, why not do it? And that's the way I feel. I've been doing this for many years, I think that way. Bodybuilding for me was a sport, and it also was a business, you know, and I was fortunate to be living in Thailand all these years, the first 10 years as a pro, or first 9 years as a pro. And as a lot of people here know, that Thailand is very cheap, so it's very cheap to live there. So I was able to save a lot of money while I was over there. That's what I do. So. You have any more questions?
Så kommer lapperne over. Skal vi stoppe en herovre stedet? Jeg tror, der sidder inde i vinduet og folk op. Ja.
Hey.
Oh, wow.
It's for Larissa, but I just want to say to all of you, thank you really so much for coming here. You're inspiring everyone, and for you to come to Denmark. We will come to Las Vegas anytime, but for you to come here to Denmark to inspire us, that's really, really cool. So thank you. Larissa, you mentioned it earlier today, but are you staying in the figure class, or are you moving up to the physique class now?
Yeah, I think things changing now, you know. Figure change a little bit, so I need to change. So I think next year I'm planning to do physique. This year I'm still going to try to go to Miss Olympia for my third time. I'm not qualified yet because they changed again this year the rules. So you have to be there to be qualified. So I'm planning to do more shows and try to do Olympia for my last time as a figure. And next year I'm going to think more about physique. This is the first year, so I need to be more inspired too, you know. It's a new thing, so yeah, I'm going to be excited.
And thank you so much for inspiring girls all over the world to change the trend from skinny girls to strong. Thank you.
That's a pause. Har vi tid til mere? 5 minutter endnu. We got 5 minutes left. Der er 2 lapper her. Spredt orkester opsagt. Vi tager en moment her.
I have a question about this health thing. Of course, when you're dieting and preparing for a contest, you're strict about food and training and everything. But in the off-season, how do you feel about bulking up, eating a hamburger, drinking a beer, something like that? Are you strict eating in the off-season? For all of you guys.
I didn't really get the question.
Well, at the off-season, we're not competing.
Oh, what do we do in off-season?
Yeah, you drink beer and eat hamburgers like normal people.
Nah, well, who says it's normal? Hamburgers here, but beer? No, I'm not a beer drinker. You know, I drink very, very, maybe 3-4 times a year. I have a couple of Coronas. But I do like burgers, you know, Burger King more than McDonald's. But, you know, off-season doesn't mean, a burger is not always bad, you know. I mean, especially in off-season. So, I mean, I do pick out, you know, I eat much worse food than, you know, worse than hamburgers. So I do other stuff. They put me right in the hospital and food poisoning and stuff like that. So, you know, I do no food. So off-season, we're not that strict, you know. But, you know what, it all depends on who you are and how popular you are and how much you have to guest post. Because if you guest post every single week or every other week, You can't eat everything you want and look like a fat slob and get on that stage because people don't want to pay for that. You know what I mean? So you have an obligation to stay somewhat in a decent shape. So you got to stay on a clean diet, you know, and maybe pick out once a week or maybe on a weekend or whatever, you know what I mean? So, but I doubt that anybody is 100%, you know, strict in off season because if you want to grow, you got to have some food, you know. You can't eat the same food that we eat while you diet and grow unless you eat 3-4 times the amount, and that's not possible. So you got to get your calories from somewhere else a little easier.
Pretty much what sums up what Dennis said. You know, I'm from Wales, so of course drinking is a big culture. You know what I'm saying? We like to drink, so I don't drink unless it's a celebration. Then, like Dennis said, it's very few and far between. But if I'm gonna have one, I'm probably gonna get it. So it is what it is. So I pre-warned Phil, if we have a few drinks in Denmark, you better keep a leash on your buddy because I'll start wandering off. You know, I'll end up in Amsterdam or something.
I think it goes back to what I talked about earlier about having purpose with what your job is. So my goal is to obviously stay, you know, a bodybuilder, no matter if it's off-season or pre-contest. As far as alcohol is concerned, I mean, I think I got most of my alcohol out of my system before I was bodybuilding. You know, playing basketball in college, I drank pretty much every day, so bodybuilding changed all that. But yeah, obviously for celebration, you know, every now and again, you know, I actually like beer, you know, but I'm a Scotch guy actually, so I'd rather have that, but if I can, but most of the time I can't. As far as like, you know, eating burgers and things like that, you know, I think they have their purpose. I mean, I'd rather go to an actual restaurant and have a burger there than maybe fast food. You know, it's a little bit different, you know, different quality of protein, you know, but yeah, you know, I try to make sure, like, before every prep, like, for instance, I start my diet in June. I try to make sure that if there's anything I want to do, anything, I give 2 days. So if I want to go out to a nightclub, go dancing, go have a drink out, I'll go do that. If I want to go eat, you know, burgers, fries, pizza, all that other stuff, I do it. But then after those 2 days are over, it's done. So that way, you know, I make sure that when I get ready for a contest, I don't have any cravings or anything. But for me, I don't have the luxury of being able to sit at home and pig out like that because, you know, I travel all the time. You know, I travel just under 150,000 miles a year, you know, doing different destinations like what we're going to have tonight. So therefore, guys like Stone are going to have me come in, you know, to like Fast Fall like DJ said. But, and then there's obviously the internet, right? And, you know, people take a photo and it's not so favorable and you don't look like the champ. So for me, it's to make sure that no matter where I'm at, I always look like a bodybuilder. So I got to make sure that if I do have that one cheat meal, that all the other meals are good.
Hvad skal du spille? Har du tid til mere?
Jeg skal tage ikke lidt mere. Så kom lampen.
Det bliver din side, jeg har oppe i knæene.
Hey, I just want to know, when you guys do a competition, you just cruise into the competition on your normal diet, or do you change things up the last 2 days? Do you carb up, or do you stop drinking water, or doing anything like that? Or do you just go by your normal diet and just cruise into the
He wants the actual secret. No, I'm just messing with you. For me, I try. For me, it's pretty simple. You know, simple depletion and carb up. Knowing that, for me, it's always knowing that 2 weeks out before a contest, I actually look, you know, how I would like to look on stage, and therefore there is no cruising. You know, a lot of people will say they'll see me at the gym, and I never post progress pics online, but people will say at the gym, okay, just keep what you have right now. And it's like, well, actually, I could probably get a little tighter going into the prep. But I don't do anything radical, meaning like a couple days before contest, someone will eat burgers or ice cream or something like that. Because my whole goal is to stick with what I know. If
So I know I look good a week out. Why change up really anything? I may have a little bit more carbs, but I've already played around with that during my entire prep. Because I don't want to be one of those guys that is trying to look 5% better and then making a gamble to look 5% better and being 20% worse. Because you see that in a lot of shows. You see a guy that's inconsistent with his conditioning. And it could be a couple of things, but more than likely it's the guy that may have heard something on the internet or from his friend or from, I don't know, he just decided, well, I'll try this because I think I'll look that much better. Well, you probably already look good as it is. So you probably should just stick to what you know, and therefore you don't have to do anything exotic.
For myself, I pretty much kept the same thing going since I was done my first show work with you. Of course, there's been adjustments, more muscle have gone on, but pretty much the same is the range program by Train Fix It comes into play. We don't do anything radical. The goal of being ready 2 weeks out has always been the staple. So then you don't have to do anything radical. A lot of people will do crazy things going in the last week. I'm pretty much ready. For me, when I came to the 202 class, I came down from a decently lean 240 something in my off season. And the Grand Prix in early last year was my first show having taken that year off. So when I tell you I was ready in 208 pounds, I was ready at 208 pounds. So I had to over diet to get into that 202 class. So that's really the only extreme radical I've ever done in my career. But I was ready 2 weeks out. So again, with what you're saying, my diet is very basic. We do minor changes, not extreme changes, minor changes. So 20 weeks out, add a diet change. Then when you hit the plateau, do another change. A lot of people, when they get this idea of dieting, it's, okay, I've got to start carb today, I've got to drop my carbs today, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. No, everything's a change, slow change. So then you can see progress, and once you hit that plateau, change it again. And it's nothing crazy. So the last week, that's all I do, like Phil said, is I deplete, and then I carb up. And that's very simple, very basic, and there's no extreme measures. I don't do any as the term is shit loading or junk loading or whatever like that. It's all clean carbs, and everything's calculated, everything's weighed from the get-go, everything's weighed. And like Phil mentioned earlier, progress pictures throughout. So you can see from the start, 20 weeks out, to a week out, to a few days out, the progress. I even put notes in it, still not so much, so nothing radical.
Next. We don't have time anymore, sorry guys. Thanks a lot.